Alright, and hello everyone, it is me, Jay Burns, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you all how to make this bracelet right here. This bracelet is my Clover Patch bracelet, and it's just a simple little bracelet design that you can make on a loom. And, well, to make this bracelet, you're going to need a loom. Any loom with 3 rows of pins, such as a rainbow loom or a moon loom, will work for this design. You will need a hook. It doesn't matter what hook you use, it's not a very intense bracelet, but I'll be using the metal tipped hook. Then you'll also need a clip. I'll be using a C-clip, but anything that you use for rubber band bracelets should work. And then you'll need rubber bands, and there are 3 groups here. So the A group, the A bands, they are going to be the single chain bands along the outside of the bracelet, so the turquoise in this example, and they'll be called the border bands. Then it also includes the cap band there. Then the B rubber bands are going to be called the center bands, and they are in the middle of each clover, so those lighter green bands there. And then the C bands are going to be the clover bands, and they are going to be pretty much the little leaves or petals on the clovers. So I guess the leaves, because that's what they have. So yeah, in the description I'll have the number of bands you'll need to complete this bracelet on a rainbow loom, length loom, or any loom with 13 pins on it. And just get that many bands, and then some extra A color bands for an extension. And you just pause them if you need more time to get supplies. We're going to go ahead and get started. Alright, so to begin, we want the arrow on our loom pointing away from us. Or if you don't have an arrow on your loom, you want the closed side of the pins facing towards you. Alright, so we're going to start by placing all of our single chain bands, or our border bands. And we're going to start on this first middle pin, and we're going to go out to the first left pin. Then we're going to start a single chain going up the left side of our loom. So from that first left pin to the second left pin. And we're just going to place a single chain of A color bands going all the way up our loom until the second to the last pin. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so once you get to the end of your loom, you should stop placing bands on that second to the last left pin, and your last band for this side will go inwards from that pin to the last middle pin. Now if you have extra bands, or you need extra bands, then you can get some more, or just not use all the bands, because you may just have a different length loom. So if you end up with extra bands, you also might have gotten too many bands. But now we're going to go ahead and do the other side. So we're going to do the exact same thing with all these A color bands here, or our border bands. We're going to start on that same middle pin that we started on before. Place this band going out to the first right pin this time. And now we're going to place a single chain going up the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And yeah, you're just going to do exactly what you did on the left. Alright, so now once you've gotten to this point here, you should have, or well, you should push all your bands down, because you're going to need more room for the bands you'll be adding next. And you should have something that looks like this on your loom. And yeah, now we're going to go ahead and place our next bands. So now we're going to start placing the clovers that make the Clover Patch bracelet. And we're going to get our C color bands, or our petal, or I guess they are the clover bands first. So not the inside bands, but the ones that will actually be like the leaves. So we're going to place 2 at a time, and we're going to take these 2 bands, and we're going to place them going from the second right pin to the third left pin. So I'll show you here. Now, when we do this, we're also going to twist the bands. So as you can see here, that's how I place them, but we also need to twist them. So I take it off and twist it. Then we're going to get 2 more clover bands and place them going from the second left pin to the third right pin. And you also need to twist those as well, even though I don't do that at first. Another way you can do it is you can use your hook to twist the bands if you find that a little easier. And then another thing you should do is you should move the bands so that they're on the side of the pin. And I just think that puts a little less tension on the bands, but you don't have to do that. Alright, so now the next 4 left and right pins that are in a square, the ones I'm pointing to there, that's where you're going to place your next clover bands. So you're going to place it from that lower right pin going up to the further away left pin, and then you're going to get 2 more clover bands and cross them with the first 2 you just placed there, going from the lower left pin to the further right pin, or the higher one. And then I push the bands to the side of the pin, and here's what you should have here. So now we're going to do the next 4 pins that I'm pointing to there, and we're just going to do that going all the way up our loom, stopping before we place bands on the second to the last pins. So I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of my clover bands, and I'll see you once I've finished doing that. So use the pause button if you need to. Alright, so on your loom, you should have something like this here. And notice how back there, I didn't put any clover bands on those last bands going into the middle. Now if you have extra bands, or you can't do that, so that they're not on those last bands there, then just leave extra space. It's better to have extra space than to have a messed up bracelet. So we're going to now place the inside bands, or the B color bands. And to do this, we're going to place them based on where our clover bands are already placed. So this first middle band, or center band, is going to go across the second left and right pins, over the pins that have clover bands on them, like that. And then the next one's going to go up on the left side, the other's going to go across the top 2 pins, and then the other's going to go on the right side. And you just create a little square or rectangle around where the clover bands are. And you're going to do this for all the clovers that you have on your loom. So I'm going to go ahead and show you one more time. So it goes across the bottom, then on the left, then on the top, and then on the right. And it actually doesn't matter what order, just make sure you have all those bands placed above each clover. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward. Just use the pause button if you need to. Alright, so now you should have something like this here on your loom. And now it's time to loom the bracelet. So we're going to need our hook, and we're going to need an A color band. But before we use the A color rubber band, we're going to turn our loom around so the arrow is pointing towards us. And if you don't have an arrow, that means the open end of the pins where you would put your hook is facing towards you now. Another thing we're going to do before we use the, oh, there's a little hair there, before we use the A color band, or the border band, is we're going to deal with these clovers here first. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to a pin that has clover bands on it, grab the 2 clover bands, like so, with our hook, and carefully pull them over the pin and onto the bands above them. Of course, you don't want to remove the bands that are on the pins like I did there, so we'll just put it back on. So you gotta be careful when you're doing the first few bands, but after a while you get kind of better at it. I don't know how. It's just some magical looming thing that happens. But anyway, you just do that for all the pins that have clover bands on them. You just grab both of them with your hook, or you can do one at a time, and pull them over the pin and onto those inside bands or center bands above them. You do this for every single one, so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward here, and you can go ahead and just loop your bands. Alright, so you should now have something like this here on your loom. Make sure you've looped all of your clover bands. And now we're going to go ahead and get our other border band, a color band, and add it to our loom. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it into a cat band by taking it, twisting it into an 8 or an infinity shape, and folding it like a book back on top of itself. And now you have your cat band. So we're going to place this cat band on the first middle pin that has border bands on it. Then we're going to get our hook and we're going to start looming. So it's very easy. First we pull back the cat band, grab the top band underneath, and loop it out to the left there. That's where it should be coming from. Then we're going to pull back the top bands on that pin that we looped to, grab the bottom band, and loom it forwards. Then when you get to clovers, it's the same. You just pull back all the top bands, grab the bottom band, and loom it forwards. And you just do that going all the way up the left side. So I'll give you a little close up or a different angle here. And you just do that going all the way up the left side, and that's it. It's just like making a regular single chain. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll see you once I finish. So now once you get here to that last left pin, you just need to loop this band that goes into the middle. It's very easy. Just go into that pin, grab that bottom band, and loom it into the middle. That's all you do. And now what we're going to do is we're going to return to the cat band, and we're going to loom the right side of the bracelet. So it's the exact same as the left, except for this first step here. So you pull back the cat band with your hook, and now it's just the bottom band that you grab. And now this one should be going out to the right. And then that last band that I'm kind of pulling at is the same as well. It just goes from the right to the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and loom, and I'll see you once I finish this side. Alrighty, so now on your loom you should have something that kind of looks like this here. Make sure you've looped all your bands. And once you have done that, now we're going to go ahead and start taking this thing off our loom. So to start, we take our hook and we start on the cap band end, and we just start pulling bands off one pin at a time, working our way up our loom to the other end of the loom. Now, one thing before you get to the end, do not take those bands off of that last middle pin. You're going to need those bands, because if you take those off, your bracelet's going to fall apart. So I'm going to go ahead and pull all these bands off. Take your time doing this step, and, well, take your time doing all these steps, but especially this step, and I'm going to go ahead and let this part play through. Alright, so as you can see here, I did not take those bands off that last middle pin there, and I'm just doing a little adjusting to the clovers so they pop out a little more, but you can do that later. What we're going to do now is we're going to take the steps necessary to take those bands off that pin. So you're going to need your hook and some more border bands, or A-color bands I've been calling them. And what we're going to do with our hook and one of these bands is we're first going to take our hook and stick it going all the way down through that pin with all those bands on it. Then, once you're sure that you have all the bands on your hook, you're going to take another A-color band, put it on your hook, and pull it up through all those bands on that pin. Then you need to make sure you were holding the other end of that band, put it on your hook, and pull those bands off. And now you don't need your loom anymore, because for the extension I'm going to show you, you just need your hook. So here's what you do. You take a band, you put it on your hook like so, slide these bands over on your hook, and slide them onto the new band. Then, there you go, that's it. So I went a little fast there. I'm going to go ahead and show you, explain a little bit slower this time. So one band on your hook like so, slide the new bands on, then put the other end of this new band on your hook like so. So that was a little bit slower, but it's really, really simple to do. So you just do that over and over until you've made yourself an extension long enough for the bracelet to fit around your wrist. And that's what I'm just doing here. So just give me a moment. Let's see. Oh, and use the pause button if you need more time once I've finished. So there we go, it looks like I've finished. So once you've finished your extension, use pause button like I said, you're going to now need your clip. And what we're going to do with our clip is we're going to attach it to the bands that are on our hook right now. So add them onto, there you go, like that. And once the clip is on, you can take those bands off your hook and you don't need your hook anymore. And now we're going to attach the clip to the cap band here on the end of your bracelet. Just like that. There you go. Now you can put your bracelet on your wrist and, well, now it's an actual bracelet. So now it's time for the outro. So I would like to thank you for watching my tutorial. Hopefully it showed you how to make the Clover Patch bracelet successfully, and now you have one. Kind of cool little bracelet. And if you're interested, I have a similar bracelet to this design, and it is called the Blossom Patch bracelet I'm showing you here. And in the description I'll have the link to this tutorial if you want to make it. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for this video, other than thanks for watching and bye!